Remember when New Coke came in and it was the biggest bomb ever? We still feel like old Coke could come back and kill it. We were afraid to say it out loud, but we always knew we wanted Juicy back. And in 2013, we started on a journey to try and get it. Early in the year, we got an email from Peter Komisar, an investment banker with the LA-based firm Guggenheim Partners, whom we have known for years and counted as a trusted advisor. Peter focuses on mergers and acquisitions and has advised many corporations, brands, and retailers. He had become aware that Fifth and Pacific, the company changed its name after CEO Bill McComb sold the rights to the Liz Claiborne brand to JCPenney, was looking to sell the Juicy Couture business, and Peter saw an opportunity. It was common knowledge that Juicy was not doing well. Where it was once a $1 billion brand with global resonance, the wheels were coming off the train when it came to product and execution. Even after management brought in a string of new creative directors, no one could restore the brand to its glory days. In 2012, Juicy reported a 62% drop in earnings to $24.6 million, and Juicy's sales fell 6% to $499 million. Still, we thought we could revive it. Like old Coke coming back in and killing it, remember? But first, we had to know what we were dealing with. At the time, Juicy had more than 300 stores worldwide, including outlets. But the last time we'd been into one of them was when the brand was in its glory days. So we put on dark glasses and hats and had it out, Mod Squad-like, on an expedition to the Juicy store on Rodeo Drive. When we stepped in the front door, it was like we had amnesia. We had no idea where we were. The GNPs were gone from the carpets and the chairs, the banisters and fixtures. Not only had our names been whitewashed from the fairy tale on the wall, the whole fairy tale had been removed. The candy, the fun, and the whimsy was gone. The clothing didn't look familiar either. The slogans on the t-shirts were sly and sexual, like something you'd see for sale on Hollywood Boulevard. It was crazy how much had changed in so little time. We didn't see ourselves anywhere in the brand. Even though Juicy was the Titanic, all they needed were the violins playing, we felt like we were the lifeboat. We wanted to buy the business and make it relevant again, but the valuation was a couple $100 million or more, and we weren't in a place where we wanted to do a deal like that by ourselves. Plus, our skill is in design, marketing, and product, not in finance. Well, that's where Guggenheim came in. Peter offered to be our strategic partner and help us raise money to buy back the business. We worked together to create a package for potential investors, laying out what we would do differently and how we would revive the brand. Then we went to New York to have preliminary meetings with private equity firms to gauge their interest. Many of them thought Juicy was a falling knife, a financial term meaning that while the price of the stock seemed attractive, it was too good to be true. And Juicy was actually overvalued relative to its prospects. Other potential players we met were never allowed to join the bidding process because Fifth and Pacific kept the discussions very narrow. It's true that it was going to be a difficult turnaround because what the brand stood for had changed so dramatically. Peter told us our value in the process was going to be in convincing a financial partner we had the goods to make Juicy relevant again. But even he was skeptical, telling us candidly that his wife would never be caught dead in a Juicy tracksuit. Instead of giving up, he challenged us. If you want to do this deal, show us what the product is going to look like, he said. So we did what we do best. We put together a collection. We had to see if we would wear and want Juicy again. We called in Annie Tran, a designer who had started with us at Juicy and was now freelance. We had to start tapping into the casual luxury side of ourselves again. That meant t-shirts, sweats, the casual clothes you live in. We designed a high-quality terry cloth zip-back jacket, terry pants with ribbed cuffs that could be pushed up to the knee and worn with gladiator sandals, vintage-inspired sundresses and rompers, a python biker jacket, and leather shorts. The designing and merchandising, it all came so easily, which is how it should be. We were figuring out what a new generation of Juicy women would want to wear now. Once Peter and his associates at Guggenheim saw the collection, they upped the ante. Instead of just being a strategic partner, they wanted to be our financial partner too. They offered to put up the capital we needed to buy Juicy from Fifth and Pacific and make an ongoing investment in the infrastructure, design, and resources to help us turn the brand around. So in May, together with Guggenheim, we made a proposal to buy Juicy for $200 million, an offer that was later increased to $250 million. Our hope was to keep the retail stores open, execute a turnaround in product, and focus on keeping Juicy elevated as the global affordable luxury brand it had been in its heyday. But we were told it wasn't enough. We didn't really believe that, but we made the decision to back away from the process. We just couldn't see paying any more than $250 million, given the investment that was going to be required in the long run to return the brand to its former stature. The $196 million offer Fifth and Pacific ultimately accepted in October sold the intellectual property of Juicy Couture to a company called Authentic Brands Group, whose portfolio also includes Tap Out, Marilyn Monroe, Judith Lieber, Adrienne Vittadini, and Taryn Rose. ABG subsequently made a deal to take Juicy to a more mass channel, Kohl's department stores. Excerpt from The Glitter Plan, How We Started Juicy Couture for $200 and Turned It into a Global Brand, by Pamela Skast Levy and Gela Nash Taylor, with Booth Moore. Copyright Gotham Books, an imprint of Penguin Random House. Read by Cassandra Harder at the Juicy Archivist, a free database of Y2K Juicy Couture resources.